Hello everyone and welcome to the video. I'm Professor Amanda and class has officially begun. And welcome to this month's study abroad. Our very first one we have is with someone who is coming from the USA. You probably already know him, but I'm going to let him introduce himself. Speedy, what do you got for us?
Professor Amanda, thank you so much for having me on the channel. My PvP Academia is a wonderful resource for PvP battlers everywhere, from Florida to Europe and everywhere across the world. My name is SpeediestChief2. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say really, except that I'm excited to be here and excited to review these Labyrinth Cup battles.
Yeah, well, I have a lot to say. I mean, obviously you are like the US champion, you're with the Mazer Gaming, you're one of the top battlers in the world. I mean, you're really downplaying yourself here a bit.
I don't know. I'm excited to be here, and yeah, you guys do a lot of great work for the community. So you asked if maybe I could do some battles and provide some helpful pointers, and I'll do my best to contribute.
I appreciate that. Okay, so walk me through the team of 6 that you brought for this tournament.
Absolutely. So this was a set of battles we did. I think Regirock is really, really strong in the Labyrinth Cup. It's got a lot of hype. I think there's a lot of hype around Cradily as well, so I definitely want to look into that more. But for the purposes of this, I think Regirock is just great. Stone Edge is so fast. Focus Blast is really great. And it's an interesting thing too, because so many people are used to the pacing of Registeel, and that's part of the reason that Regirock is just so good, because the Stone Edge is much faster. It's a lower energy cost charge move, so you can get them off more quickly. So if you kind of over farm and play around with your energy a little bit, you can really surprise a lot of opponents. Alolan Marowak, really, really great Pokemon here. Fire and Ghost is a great combination of typings. Fire, a little less useful in Labyrinth because there aren't a whole lot of great other fire typings. So if you're looking to fill that slot, I highly recommend it. Alolan Ninetales, and I know we'll get into this, but I have an interesting twist on my Ninetales that you didn't quite expect before we started our battles. But I think Ninetales, again, Weather Ball, great moveset, lots of versatility, and a really tremendous Pokemon with Fairy and Ice typing. Then we have that Pelipper. So Pelipper could be better in this cup if there were a few more fighting and grass type Pokemon. So that was one I was a little bit iffy about. I almost feel like Politoed is a bit better in that water type slot, but water flying is a lot of fun, and it's very spammy, and I don't have a Politoed, and I'm very jealous of your Politoed, that is Shadow. So I went ahead and went with Pelipper there. Galvantula is a Pokemon that I really have come to love. It used to be my nemesis. I hated battling it. It's so hard to plan around. It's got 2 typings as well that are a little underutilized, but combined are actually really, really special. The bug and electric typing, I think Galvantula deserves a spot on almost any Labyrinth Cup team. And then our trusty Vigoroth, that normal typing with counter is just so hard to find anywhere else. And the body slam spam is dangerous in almost every situation.
Yeah, it's funny that you said the Pelipper, you were really debating on it, because the Pelipper actually gives the Politoed a really difficult time. I would say that was something when I was looking at your team, I was like, darn it, it really does well against almost everything that I have. So it's like I have to align things perfectly to get it to work out. But what were your thoughts? I'll walk through my team a little bit really quickly. So yeah, I wanted a counter user that actually beat Vigoroth, because since Vigoroth is a normal typing, even though it's really good for the normal type role, the other fighters really just put a hurt on it. So I was thinking that everyone's going to pick Vigoroth, so I'm going to pick an actual fighter to kind of counter people's safe spots with Vigoroth. And then I really like the idea of Hitmontop, because he's kind of a bulky fighter and he's got some nuke moves. So with the Stone Edge and also the close combats, it really can put some damage out. And then, like we talked about, the Shadow Politoed, I had a Shadow Poliwag that I took during the Rocket event, and I changed off the charge move, so I actually had it all ready. And then I did Elite GM it to give it Earthquake, because I felt that it was more necessary in this meta. Regirock, like we discussed, is just a beast. And so I was thinking, yeah, like I'm gonna give it a try. Zweilous, I really like it. I actually think in a lot of my matchups that Zweilous has been my MVP. And then Marowak, just to kind of scare away Zweilous counters, like the Alolan Ninetales or like a Bomb Snows or any of the ice users. And then Skarmory is just usually a good overall pick. It's very strong as a flyer. So that was the team composition that I came up with. I actually was feeling fairly confident by the time that we were battling, because I was in a tournament, and I was in 2 tournaments, and I was really doing well. I only lost 1 battle in each of them, so I was like, I can take on Speedy. I know what I'm doing in this cup. he's just throwing together a team at this point. So surely I can get a win or two.
No, you should be really proud. I need to learn from you. I need to get good and start getting some more tournament wins. Now that my month has kind of settled down, I'm looking to get into some Labyrinth Cup tournaments. So I'm going to be looking at your example going forward.
Well, very cool. Speaking of my example, so what do you think of my team composition? What were your thoughts of what you would bring against it?
Absolutely. So I definitely think that Zweilous is a bit of an issue. And when I look at your team, I kind of look at the different attack styles, the different kind of pressure that you're getting from each Pokemon. For example, kind of going left to right pretty quickly. So the Hitmontop is a great Pokemon, as you mentioned. It's bulkier than people think. It's bulkier than a Hitmonchan. It's not quite as bulky as a Medicham, but it's a little bit more stout than a Machamp. It's like a really nice kind of medium fighting type Pokemon for this cup. But it has some tendencies to it that cause players to play it a certain way. A lot of players tend to build up back-to-back moves on it.
Right.
It takes a long time to get to its charge moves. So when you're fighting that kind of fighter type Pokemon, you can kind of maybe have a little bit more time to strategize about how you want to counter it and what you want to do in the matchup going forward. Politoed is a really, really big threat. Earthquake or Blizzard, both are great, devastating moves. And it's actually even more of a concern when it's Shadow, because that's going to do even more damage. So
and
things like
playing against you probably realize those, even if they're not going for the nuke moves, those weather balls just come like this, like one after another, it seems.
Yes, 4 mud shots to a weather ball. That's insane. I mean, the pacing is just unreal. And like you said, the stab damage, the shadow damage, it just really piles on really fast. So I knew I had to contain Politoed kind of no matter what. In terms of the Regirock, it's going to impale with the Stone Edge, the Marowak, the Ninetales, the Pelipper, and the Galvantula. So I really had to contain that. Zweilous has a lot of fast move pressure, right? The Dragon Breath is really great. If I'm going to bring something that's a soft counter, maybe like a Galvantula, those 3-volt switches take an eternity, and the Dragon Breath adds up. So that is also really important to the plan. The Alolan Marowak, great Pokemon. It's got a very balanced attack set, just like the Skarmory, where you get a little bit of fast move pressure, but those charge moves are a stab and they're nothing to play around with. So you had a lot of different ways to attack, and when you get kind of caught up in containing, you can kind of forget your own attack strategy as well. Yeah. So when I went into the battles against you, I tried to think of, if I brought a team of 3, what was the one Pokemon on your team that I needed to get rid of, and how could I kind of eliminate that Pokemon to stay on schedule and to find win cons down the stretch.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting that you said that, because I find that this is something that I want to get better at as a player myself. Is I play defensively rather than aggressively usually, and that can be to my detriment, because I'm always thinking about what my opponent's going to bring or how I can counter, but really sometimes you just need to be thinking about how can I win this matchup? Like, not what is my opponent going to do, but what is the best strategy for me?
Exactly. It's like an attack versus defense mindset. You have to score points to win the game at the end of the day. So how are you going to get your points, and how can you maybe slow down your opponent and prevent them from getting theirs?
So when I was looking at your team, what I thought you would do is I thought that you would probably lead Galvantula, because it has besides 2 on my team, it has fairly neutral to good matchups, so it's like, and my thought process was, okay, I'm going to lead Hitmontop in this case, because if I lead a Hitmontop, worst case scenario on the team, it's like the Galvantula. So, I mean, at least I'll get it out of the way, and I can bring in something in the back that can take care of it. So that was my thought of going into round 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I had my mind on that Zweilous. I was really concerned about it. I felt like the Dragon Breath was going to be really tough to deal with. So I think I led Alolan Ninetales in game 1.
All right, well, let's see how we play it out. So Speedy is on the left, my side is on the right. And once we start, I am seeing how quickly you are chunking, and I am realizing, holy crap, this Ninetales has charm, which is, you're like, out of all the tournaments that I've played, every single person has Ninetales on their team, and you are the only person besides one who has led with a charm Ninetales.
Yeah, the powder snow is a little bit of a mystery to me. I'm not going to lie, because there are a few grass types in the meta, and your top flyer is Skarmory. So I don't really understand exactly why powder snow is needed. Maybe charm is better here. This was actually a mistake. I did not mean to go into Pelipper against Regirock. I should have gone into Vigoroth. And here you see I have to let it go. But now that Regirock is out, I know that I can probably do some work with Vigoroth here and then go into energy, or excuse me, go into the next matchup with energy. But you make a really nice swap.
Yeah, I realized that I wasn't going to hit a charge move, and I needed to get out of there to prevent you from farming.
Absolutely. So again, Hitmontop really slow on schedule, so I snipe it with that charm there. I wanted to avoid the close combat that you had built up.
Like, I finally had full energy on that and ready to do a move, and it just boom, it's out.
Yeah, again, it's all a question of pacing, and this still is very precarious. That Politoed is probably up to 2 weather balls, but I sneak in that charm there, which really, really helps. You hate it when it happens to you, but when it happens for you, you think it's great.
Yeah, turns out this is okay, and you're really good here. Like, you're saving shields because you recognize that that my Regirock isn't going to be able to get to anything in time. And so, yeah, I knew at this point that it was just over. But now I have to rethink my whole strategy, because like a charm Ninetales is going to do damage to everything pretty much. I mean, I definitely can't bring in that Zweilous. I'm very fearful of just getting charmed down immediately. And also it kind of renders my Hitmontop less useful, because it's definitely not a positive matchup.
This is a funny thing that came about through conversations with Ramberto, who's now retired from PvP. At the moment, we'll see if he comes back, but he's a great battler. Yeah. And then Mudkipped EZ out in Arizona. So I picked Charm as well, because with my team comp, I wanted a balance of pressure. I felt like the Regirock with its charge moves, the Marowak and the Vigoroth both have pretty consistent damage with nice stab charge moves, but then I wanted 2 really strong fast move users, and we saw that with Ninetales in game 1. I believe Galvantula has a moment in game 2 or game 3, and then Pelipper is just a great neutral safe switch that I thought would be really special.
Yeah. So going into game 2, which, I mean, you probably are already in my head a little bit now that I've realized and recognized that it's a charm user, so I need to adjust my strategy. I'm thinking, okay, I have to bring counters to this charm user. So I think I'm going to probably bring in the Skarmory, and Regirock did well in the last round. And also just knowing that Politoed is it's pretty strong, even if it's faced up against the Galvantula. Galvantula will need to shield, especially since it's a shadow, or else, I mean, the damage output on it will still be enough to really take care of it. So I think that's my strategy for round 2.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I know that Alolan Marowak, Skarmory, one or the other, maybe even both, are coming this game. So I'm going to do my best to prepare for those 2.
All right, let's see how we played out the second game. So I lead the Politoed into a Vigoroth but then you swap brilliantly, which is super annoying. This weather ball doesn't do very much.
Yeah, so the Vigoroth lead there, I recognize that it's going to be really good against Regirock, and that Regirock really wants that Pelipper to land that Stone Edge again, so I go ahead and bring it out, nullify the energy, and then try to grab a shield here and successfully do that.
Yep. And I know that I'll at least let one go through, but I want to try to grab your shields as well. And I'm trying to store up a little bit extra energy each time too. So I'm going past. I was trying to get to this one before you got to another weather ball, but I think you were just counting very spectacularly there.
No, you make a great point, and I alluded to this before we got into the battles. Regirock's timing is so interesting, it's hard to predict. I did make a gamble here, keeping Galvantula in the back, because if you have a Alolan Marowak, I'm in trouble. If you have Skarmory, I might be okay here.
Yep. So yep, I switched right back to that Politoed. And are you fearful? Are you feeling okay right now? You're wondering what's in the back, I assume.
Yes, very much so. I know Regirock's health is pretty low and manageable, so what I'm going to do here is throw the Body Slam, and then just like with the Alolan Ninetales, I'm going to utilize that fast move to nullify all the energy you built up. I'm sorry. And see, the Regirock is manageable, just like we talked about, so I'm comfortable here shielding once and trying to farm down.
And this is where I'm realizing that I am in a world of hurt. When that Galvantula came out, I was like, why didn't I recognize it? This was my fear in the first game.
Absolutely.
And I just completely forgot about for round 2 because I was so worried about the Ninetales that you didn't even bring. But I was wondering, did you do this on purpose? Did you lunge me? Or were you just lunging blindly to lower the attack on whatever came in?
No. So the lunge was definitely intentional. I know I can survive a sky attack before the lunge, but I really wanted to be healthy enough to get to a couple of discharges, and we're able to survive that sky attack there, and I'm able to get off 2 discharges. Whereas if I just discharge straight away, I probably only get off 1.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I was wondering if, because I knew that you had the energy for it, and I figured the smart move, since I only had 1 Pokemon left, would be just to automatically lunge whatever came in, because then it's not like I could switch out to regain my attack stat or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's actually something I do sometimes as well, especially if there's a lot of fast move pressure, like a Dragon Breath user like Altaria. I will go ahead and lunge that first to slow it down and give myself more play later. So maybe it's just a force of habit.
No. Because I think that he probably could have, I didn't shield the first one because I was thinking that, oh yeah, he's baiting me. And then I was like, oh good, well crap, it's still not great for me because now he lowered my attack. And I couldn't Brave Bird because your Vigoroth still had some health and energy on it. So I knew that even if I took out that Galvantula, I would probably die to the counters coming in afterwards. So I was in a pickle.
Well, again, I got really lucky. It wasn't Marowak back there. I had a feeling Skarmory was your Pokemon of choice, and I was really fortunate to call it there.
Yeah. Looking back, if I really would have thought that through, the Marowak would be a great choice in general because it does really well against both Galvantula and the Ninetales. So that was just a misplay on my. I was
no, it's
focusing
okay.
too much on what's the hardest counter to the Alolan Ninetales.
That's okay. It happens to the best of us.
All right, so yeah, by this point I'm already defeated. I'm hoping I can maybe save a little bit of face. But then, I led that Marowak into the Pelipper, and I was like, well, this is just hard counter spinning.
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry, Amanda. I finally get to bring the Regirock here. I feel like the airspace is clear, and there comes the Skarmory, so I'm able to go ahead and counter that with the stone edges. But again, in this match, it's still dependent on energy management, right? We have to be very careful about how we play out the rest of the game.
I thought it was kind of funny. For my last matchup, I brought up like the complete counters to Alolan Ninetales and Galvantula, and of course, I'm just met with hard counters from the beginning.
Oh, excuse me. It can happen that way sometimes, and that was a really wimpy undercharge. You see my undercharge there on the stone edge? That was so bad.
And I think even at this range, it comes close to knocking you out, right?
Absolutely.
Not that close, yeah.
Yeah, so I think in that situation, I'm really going to rely on the stored energy on the Pelipper and my Vigoroth to take down the Regirock. So I'm not really interested in shielding there, so I'm fine letting the Stone Edge go. And it's unfortunate because it puts you behind schedule because you have to double Stone Edge, which is really, bad.
I was thinking like that, you would try to save it. So I was like, oh, I'll at least bait. It's my best condition here. But of course, you're just being like, you know what? I don't really need this Regirock.
One of the things I try to do in battle is I try to, and again, I mentioned a little bit of this earlier, I try to give every Pokemon a job. And it was Regirock's job to knock out that Skarmory because I realized Pelipper with Weather Ball and Vigoroth Bulldoze could handle the Marowak in the back if that's what it happened to be.
Well, that's a really good tip for people in general. So yeah, I mean, you have a team of 3 that you're choosing for a reason. So actually having a plan for them and sticking to that is probably a really good way to always have your win condition.
Yeah, I think assigning jobs is really important. It has gotten me in trouble before, but I'm really fortunate here to land the Bulldoze against the Regirock, and I think I might be able to counter down.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I was like, it doesn't even really matter because you still have a shield, so.
Yeah, again, really lucky with team comp in game 3, but those were awesome battles, and it was fun to battle with you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. And also this was one of the times where it made me realize that it's hard to have both Hitmontop and Regirock on the same team because they're fulfilling kind of similar-ish purposes, and they both have very nuke moves. So it takes, like Regirock actually, it doesn't take too long to get to them, but it does take longer than say like a Body Slam or, a Bone Club. Like these little moves, you can't bait with either a Regirock or a Hitmontop. So for my rounds once I finished my tournaments, I actually changed up to Hitmonchan, which is a little bit more frail, but it allows me to put off some more spammy moves.
Yeah, I really like that thought, because if you think about Regirock, Stone Edge, Focus Blast, you think about Hitmontop, Stone Edge, Close Combat.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're really fulfilling similar purposes in
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
sense.
And then the Hitmonchan, like you said, gives you more flexibility, so you can throw an Ice Punch, a Thunder Punch. It's almost like Mew in that sense, because you don't know
Yeah.
what the moveset is, so you draw
Right,
shields
but
early on
element
as
of
well.
surprise at the beginning. So.
Exactly.
And that's another thing that I mean, I really didn't get a chance to show off my skills too much in these battles, but I think it's important in the beginning, if you know you're going to win, or you're going to lose, that you don't give any additional information to your opponent that they can take into game two. So it's like with the Politoed, like I wouldn't want to show that it had Earthquake on it unless it was a dire circumstance, because that way then you have the information that it's an Earthquake, and then you feel a lot more comfortable bringing in the Pelipper or something that doesn't take it as easily.
Absolutely. So I'm a big fan of scary movies, and I'm not sure if you are, but one of the most true and tested mantras of scary movies is that before you see the monster, it's a lot scarier. You don't know what it looks like, you don't know where it is. So if you don't know if that earthquake is coming, you don't know if that blizzard is coming, it's really scary, and it forces you to use shields when you probably wouldn't. But as long as you are staying there and you figure out what the moveset is, you see the monster, it gets a lot less scary, and you're like, okay, how can I handle this? So the element of surprise, very, very important.
What's your favorite scary movie?
My favorite scary movie, I haven't been asked that in quite a while. Man, I really am a big fan of the Insidious series.
Okay, yeah. What the dream thing, right?
Yeah, it's the same guy who does Insidious and The Conjuring. I know we're getting way off topic, but he makes really, really great films. And yeah, again, in those movies, it's not that you see this monster, this killer or whatever. It's that the idea of a ghost being right around the corner, something being behind you or in your dreams. It's really, really creepy. So that's my preferred scary movie of choice.
I've always said that if a serial killer was after me, that I would just give myself up immediately, because it's this, I can't stand the suspense more than I couldn't stand the outcome. Like, I'm horrible at games like hide and seek too, where it's just like, I don't want people to find me. Are they going to find me? I'm so nervous.
Yes, exactly. And when you get your eyes on them and you know where they are, it actually feels like you can handle it. So
yes, exactly.
once you shield up that first earthquake, you shield up the first blizzard, you say, okay, they're out of energy. I know where they are. I know what's happening. I can handle this.
Yep. So what advice would you, I mean, not just to me, although if you have any good tips for me, I'm still in one more tournament, but would you have for people who are testing out teams for Labyrinth, or even just play styles in general? How can people improve on their show 6 pick 3 type tournaments?
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought that you did something interesting early on, where you identified the Zweilous and Alolan Marowak pairing as kind of being complementary. So when you look at certain teams, if you can identify cores, I think that's obviously really helpful, because then you can kind of understand what your opponent's trying to do. Famous cores like Tropius and Galarian Stunfisk are really, really common in Open Great League and Go Battle League, and they make their appearances in Silph as well. Very strong, very complementary, and a lot of people will pair those two with a safe switch. So if you can kind of, based on your team, understand what your opponent is going to try to do against you, you can probably decipher maybe the lead, and then kind of have an idea of what that safe swap will look like, so you're better at countering it. One of the things that I did for Worlds, I did this against so many friends. I asked all of my best friends to battle me and use my opponent's teams. Is what I did was I said, I'll be myself and you be Ventusky, you be Marone, etc., and I would write down what they led against me, because that's a brand new, fresh person looking at that team and saying, if I was this team, I would do this. And once you get a large enough sample size, it almost becomes easy to predict what your opponents will do. So in your practice matches, yeah. So in your practice matches, take note of what people lead against you. If they recognize that Zweilous and Marowak core, and they're constantly leading that pesky Regirock, maybe you can anticipate your opponent's leading Regirock against you in the tournament.
I like that. I didn't even think about it. And also, like, a more advanced thing that I'm going to have to really play over some footage and remember how you do it is the sniping. You're really good at it. You did it to me in 2 different rounds. Like, what is your tip for that? Is it just like really proper counting, or like?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I feel like every Pokemon is on a schedule and they arrive at a charge move at a certain pace. And if you can kind of internalize the pace and maybe kind of get a rhythm for how the battle is going, you can anticipate what your opponent's trying to do. If your opponent's Politoed has done 8 mud shots, you know they're at 2 weather balls. They're probably pretty close to the Earthquake or the Blizzard, you know, the big nuke move. So if you can sneak in there, and again, it's very precarious, right? Because you need to know that that move is going to do just enough damage to KO. Because otherwise, you come in, they survive with 1 HP, you get hit with 2 charge moves, and that can really set you back. So you need to be comfortable. And the second thing I'll say is that when you force swap in like that, you make yourself very vulnerable. So if you notice in game 2, I mentioned that Regirock was at a manageable health state, and I was comfortable with Galvantula being able to volt switch down, which is a really like awkward thing to say. It's not something you expect to do a lot, but I recognize the shield. I recognize you were low on energy. I recognize your Politoed was high on energy. So swapping that in felt safe. You throw up the 1 shield and Galvantula, hopefully, unless you have Marowak in the back, can close out the game.
Yeah, no, it was a really good reading and yeah, just super well played.
Yeah, well, again, you've been really crushing it in your tournaments as well. So if that footage goes up, if you share it on the channel, I will be watching it. And I suggest everybody who's watching this should watch it too.
Actually, yeah, we just put one out. It was Notphone was in the same tournament as me, and I did 6-1, which normally is gold. You know, normally you can win a tournament with a 6-1, but he decided to be selfish and go for a 7-0 sweep. And
how dare he?
Yeah, he's currently #1 in the world, so I guess we can let him have that.
Yeah, you know, until you are. I do have a confession. I was actually watching that tournament just before we went on the call.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was trying to brush up on my Labyrinth Cup battles and tactics, so that was really helpful. And thank you.
You guys heard it here first. Speedy's watching our channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for doing this with us. We really appreciate it, and good luck to you for the rest of your tournaments.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm going to try to live up to your record, your 5-1s, 6-1s. I need some of those under my belt. So if you have any tips for me,
we're going to be very disappointed in you.
I know. So if you have any tips for me, let me know.
I'll tell you after the call.
Sounds good.
All right, that's it for this one, everyone. See you in the next one.